Well, hello everybody, and hello, Chad. How was your week this week, Chad?
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, we went. I had another one of those 3 meetings in 2-day weeks, and you know that means that when the first one starts at 7 p.m. on Monday, and the last one is over at what was it this week? 8:30, 9 o'clock on Tuesday, and you know I ended up spending somewhere around 10 hours in meetings throughout that. So yeah, it was. These are the weeks that then I end up really tired and just kind of trying to recover the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So that's the week, man.
Yeah. I seen you at a meeting. I seen you at the Harvey County Commission meeting this week.
Yes, sir, you did.
I'm not envious of you. I know that I did have a conversation with a few people, and they had mentioned, you know, that showing up to a meeting is good and everything, and I'm for that. But when you're a guy like myself or like you who needs to show up to the city commission meeting, the school board meeting, the county commission meeting, just to be informed as I want to be, I can't always be there in person, right? I pick one, and that's the Harvey County Commission meeting. But, you know, I watch the city commission meetings online. I watch the school board meetings online. And then when I was in there at the county commission meeting, I just got to say this. It was a full house.
Yes, it was.
There was a topic of discussion that had come up where there was a bunch of different players in the game. I hate to call it a game, but there was a bunch of different players that were trying to pursue their own interest when it came to the discussion that was being had. And I just kind of sat back there, a fly on the wall, really shaking my head. Chad, I mean, you know, I've said it many times on the program and in my own personal life that we've got to do each other better. You know, it's anytime there's a policy issue discussed, it seems like tempers tend to run high. We just recently got through with the Walton school closure. That was an issue that there was a lot of tempers that were running high.
Well, and when you're talking about the closure of a school, there will always be a lot of emotion.
Agreed.
There will always be a lot of people who need to be heard.
Yes.
And I want to make it clear, I'm choosing my words very purposefully there. They need to be heard.
Agreed.
So, you know, there's always going to be that. The other thing that there is always going to be is a permanent wound afterwards.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if the school closes or not. There are going to be permanent wounds. When the school closes, okay, and folks, this ain't my first rodeo, right? Again, choosing my words carefully.
Right.
Because, you know, we got to talk a rodeo, I guess.
Yes.
But not my first rodeo when it comes to school closures. The last time, you know, that it was this way where a school actually ended up shut down, you know, in my sort of core community, I was a kid.
Yeah.
That the wound does not heal.
Yeah.
It will not heal.
Yeah. Well, like,
it just won't.
And we'll talk school closures. When I was a youth living out in western Kansas in my paradise of a town of 200 people, you know, they consolidated the school.
Yes.
Our school got closed down. My elementary school got closed down. Not after the fact, but while I was going there.
Yes.
They just said, you can no longer come here. You have to go someplace. And it caused us, you know, well, I'm glad to wind up calling Harvey County home. I'm sure some people probably depends on how you feel about Lance's impact in the community, because I just don't go away. I was like, I wish that guy would just have stayed in Western Kansas where he was from, you know. Yeah. But you know, it's just, you know, but it goes back to this, Chad, and this is my biggest deal. Why is there such a need and a desire from people who are hurting, that then, let's say, gives birth to some frustration and some anger, to make warrantless, and I'm talking warrantless, accusations at people? It's like if because, and you know, Walton, maybe that's not the best example. Let's just talk about what they were talking about.
Are you saying that we have a propensity to rather than just say, I think this was a bad decision, let's talk about the decision, that we have to take it to the next level.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We have to say, I think this was a bad decision, and you made this decision because, and yada, yada, yada,
and I don't
yada,
like
yada.
the decision, and that's fine.
Right.
But
Yeah,
to say,
I hear what you're saying.
But
Yeah.
I watched this happen time and time and time again. And as I'm sitting back there, I'm watching parents, I'm watching children, okay, watch their parents, their leaders, their mentors conduct themselves in a very emotional way, instead of learning and teaching these youth how you conduct yourself, even if you're upset. You know, if I'm upset, is it okay to go and hit somebody, Chad?
No.
Oh, you mean it's not? Well, what if I'm really upset? And
honestly,
I think it should
that's
happen.
a conversation I had with a middle school track athlete within the last 2 weeks.
Well, okay, so here's another one. If I'm really, really upset, is it okay for me to start name calling?
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
And that's a conversation that I had with a juvenile just yesterday.
Okay, so and this is my thing. This is where my criticism lies. Whether I feel one way or the other about a given situation, and yes, there are times when my emotions run high as well because I'm directly affected by decisions that are being made, where is there the opportunity for a mature adult who realizes that their children are watching, maybe these people in the community know them, they're watching, for you to just throw all caution to the wind? It's almost like cheating to win. That's how I feel about it. We see it happening in so many places. You know, your team's losing, and so then it's okay to, I don't know, sacrifice some chickens. Or wait, nobody left. Nobody lost that game. Okay. Because I want to hear about
you're
this.
going all over the you're going all over the place, but I just have, and I've been asked about this a lot within the last few days, right? When it comes to the Valley Center baseball team.
I'm sorry, it's not funny.
And they were all suspended for sacrificing chickens at home plate. I really think somebody, and this is what I have been saying now for days, somebody needs to step up and just tell them, Major League of 1989 was not a documentary.
Yes.
It was a comedy. Now, can we move on?
Okay, but I got to say this, okay? It goes back to this again, and we're laughing about it, and I am sorry that the chickens were hurt in the commission of whatever they were thinking they were going to do.
Yeah, and quite on, and let's be straight. Let's be straight, because of the way the world works and the laws work. If they would have plucked them, gutted them, and fried them and ate them, nobody would care.
Well, and I mean, you know, I'm not saying that that's not true. I mean, I don't believe in.
And by the way, in Major League, when they needed to sacrifice a chicken, they went to KFC and got a bucket. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. Now here's my question. Chad. It goes back to tying into what I was saying, and I know that's where I jumped track here in my brain, but where was the adult in the room that had some maturity that said, "Hey, you know, I mean, I understand,
I don't know.
but maybe that's not the best idea."
I don't know. You know, the question, was there even any adult around?
I guess
mean, seriously.
These youth can just grab a chicken and go sacrifice it on home plate.
Well, and just gonna throw it out there. This ain't the first place this has happened. This is not the first time this has happened. And it's not the first time it's happened in high school baseball. It's happened in professional baseball. I mean, this is not the first go round with this. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So,
but children do what they're taught to do. They, you know, unless there's a mature adult sitting here. Now, I got to say this. Okay. There's got to be a parent somewhere in there.
Sure. But you're assuming that parents were aware of what these kids were doing.
They just went and got some chickens.
How many parents were aware in advance that, you know, little Jimmy was going to go down to Atwood's and buy a couple of chicks? Probably none.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I mean, kids cook up schemes. That's what happens.
So no parents are to blame in the commission of the sacrificial chickens?
I'm not saying that. I mean, the idea came from somewhere, yes. But at some point, folks, can we just let this be what it is?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Kids doing what kids do.
When in high school, when we decided to initiate a couple of guys onto the soccer team, and the decision was made that we were going to steal a honey bear from the cafeteria and apply said honey to a specific part of said bodies, we did that.
Yeah.
We cooked up that whole scheme. It was over and done with in half an hour, and there wasn't a single adult who knew a darn thing about it until afterwards. Yeah. And, none of us really liked running all those extra miles afterwards.
Yeah.
But we did it.
Well, wasn't there, just to come
seriously,
to mind.
We just need to just, when it...
Chad's like, I don't even want to talk about this.
I don't want to. You're right.
Sorry,
I don't want to talk
Chad.
about this anymore because we just need to leave it be for what it is.
I know, man. It just, I just, I take it back to this. Please, people, when it comes to, especially policy issues, and you're going to a commission meeting or a school board meeting or whatever endeavor you choose to pursue when it comes to civics, the main part of civics being able to operate is for us to do it in a civil way.
Sure, but there's another component here because of the exact situation that you're talking about. So I'm going to speak it to aloud what we're talking about. We're talking about the county fair.
Yes.
And the angst, anxiety, anger, fear, those are the emotions that has been created by how the county fair got scheduled this year and why it got scheduled when it was scheduled, and the fact that it is now scheduled in direct conflict with one of our largest festivals in our county.
Yeah.
And oldest, by the way. We have to, when situations like these arise, the adults in the room, your words, and I like those words, the adults in the room need to not only figure out a way to deal with this in an adult way.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody here.
Because there's a way saying everybody's somewhat at fault here.
There's a lot of people involved.
Yes.
They also have to look around and understand who can really help with this situation.
Yeah.
And in this situation, the county commission could not.
Yes.
They do not. They lack, for lack of better words, they lack the control,
the authority,
and the authority.
That's right.
In order to affect any change here, the county. I'm just going to say I don't think the county commission was the place for this conversation.
Well, and then you ask the question, the reason they went to the county commission, from what I understand, reading the room and having discussions with the different players that were involved, is that this is something that has come to a boiling point and is now boiling over.
So, I mean, do you need a moderator? Is that what you need?
But who can control the fact that you have a moderator? There's nobody there to say, hey, you have to have a moderator.
Somebody can ask for it.
Well, and then it comes down to, there were people that were discussing the fact that they felt like they reached out and they got no response, and other people felt like they were responding. And where I'm at is okay. So the first thing that I thought is county fairs were generally historically surrounded around the 4-H. That's where they got started. Okay, so and then all the other things were frills, in light of it. But
I wouldn't say frills.
Well, added bonuses.
They're the things that fund everything.
Yes. Well, and that's another thing is, we've got a quagmire of a situation anyway. See, for those that don't know, for the last 6 years, I'm batting pretty good at about 80% of going up there and being the guy volunteering to empty trash cans, all day long, to pick up trash that everybody's throwing around all day long, to make sure that the restrooms, because every year we'd have problems with that. Now they have a maintenance person, but I was there to help and volunteer with that person. So it's just all of these things that are the very base level stuff to make sure that this whole festival goes on. I was there to do it. They have a pig wash bay that they go. I call it the pig wash bay or the animal bay, and it's getting clogged because of the poo-poo, and I'm up there trying to figure out how to get the poo-poo unclogged with another man and doing all this stuff. And I would just sit back and watched and listened. And, there is a lot of relationships there, and I'm just going to be honest, that need some work.
Yes.
Between what used to be called the Fair Board, or what I would consider the Fair Board.
The Fair Board no longer exists.
Yeah, it's the Fair Committee.
It is now a Fair Association.
Fair Association.
That is why the county really does not have any authority anymore.
Yes. And they all rely on each other, Chad. This one relies on this entity. This building is responsible by these. The county does do a little bit of funding. It's like all of these players have to work with one another for this to work. And all I felt, and I'm just going to say the way I felt, okay, because that's not necessarily logic, right? There's some emotion there. I just watched how all of these people that I know have interpersonal relationships with one another, who are all working in unison with one another year after year after year, sometimes strained, sometimes not, that it takes all hands on deck to make this happen. And I just saw in a lot of ways, and this is why I kind of, my heart goes out to the Fair Board Committee, but it's not the Fair Board anymore, right? But the board, in which is the responsible parties making these decisions, because I know every last one of them. I've worked with every last one of them, and their heart is in it to do the best job that they can, considering all parties concerned. But then you have this other party that says, no, we want this done because this is best for us. And we've got this other party saying, no, we can't do it this weekend. We got to do it this weekend. But then the funding's relying upon that. It's a quagmire. It's a quagmire that's been created, and now it's boiling over. And I just can't believe that. I'm just going to say, I can't believe, and nope, not pointing fingers at anybody, people, but can we please let cooler heads prevail? Can we realize that this is not a situation in which we should be breaking relationships with one another, but that we should be giving some of each other some compassion, some understanding in this whole situation?
The understanding that needs to occur, and I'm going to invoke the Chisholm Trail Festival on this one, because I see so many parallels. The understanding that needs to occur is that the four entities that are at the table here, that right now are fighting, they need to come up with the understanding and a remembrance that they are stronger together than they are apart.
Yes.
Okay?
Well, they're nothing apart from each other.
And if you want to see examples of where this kind of thing has led to the, albeit very slow, but death of a county fair, you don't have to look far. There are counties very close to us where the 4-H has its own fair one day. And then they have their county fair in another city a few weeks later. And, there's no question that those two things would be stronger together than they are apart.
Agreed.
Because the environment that they're in now, both are begging for people to come.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Well, and then volunteers too, begging for volunteers.
Yes, and that's where the parallel is, right? So the Chisholm Trail Festival, that thing lasted something like 25 years. And it had a heyday. And there was a year that I would call the absolute heyday, and I will never forget, because that thing grew to an 8-day festival. Think about that. Now, that doesn't mean that there was stuff going on all day, every day. A lot of those days, it was just a few things going on in the evenings. But it was 8 days long. Yeah. I went to all of it. And I was pretty worn out after. That year was the beginning of the end. And the reason it was the beginning of the end, everybody, including all of their volunteers and a lot of their board members, just absolutely got burned out.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was one of the heavy hitters within that board and within that organization, making a comment to them on the final Saturday night, and we still had Sunday to go, about how tired I was. And that I sincerely hoped that they never did a festival of that length again. She looked right at me and said, we didn't have hardly any volunteers to run this thing, and so the board has been running this thing for the entirety of it, and we are all done. We will not do this again. And when she said that, I remember saying, so when you say you will not do this again, do you mean 8 days or the festival itself? She goes, 8 days.
But that was the beginning of the end,
we might go for 3.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. And it was the beginning of the end because they could not get anybody to volunteer. Well, what did you hear on Tuesday? How many times did the words volunteers come up?
Not often.
From the Fair Association.
Well, yeah. That they're dependent upon their volunteers.
They are. Okay. And so let me be really clear. I identified that, and I also identified that they were not throwing shade on anyone at that point in time. And they knew they couldn't. Because, quite honestly, the 4-H is who cleans the whole darn place up afterwards. Okay? And the 4-H runs the food booth that's in the building. So there's people and there's volunteers coming from that 4-H group. All right? So they're not pointing the finger there. They're pointing the finger at everybody else. You know, you, me. You know, well, not you, because you actually are out there.
Well, but then again, I wasn't.
I mean, I have to work the whole thing.
I ran out of steam. But but whether there was somebody to pick up where Lance left off after doing that for that many years.
Yep.
Is that, I mean,
so and volunteers are incredibly important. Now, the other thing that's important to note here is the reason that they decided to move to the second weekend of August, and Mr. Lanier was very clear. He could not have made it any clearer. And it was because they could not get a carnival contracted for the first weekend in August when they normally had the fairs. I mean, he there's no way he could have been more blunt about this.
Yeah.
And that's about funding. Yeah. That was a business decision.
Yeah.
Pure and simple.
Yeah.
And is it unfortunate that that's also the weekend of Old Settlers? Yes, extremely. But the County Fair Association had to make a business decision, and they made it.
Well, and I got a question about that. And I don't know. I mean, you could get into some hot water here by making a suggestion, but just making a suggestion knowing that, emotions run high and hopefully cooler heads prevail and that people would have compassion on me for making an out-of-the-box thought or discussion, which probably is not really that out of the box and already been discussed and was somewhat discussed there and then, is how much revenue do they actually get from the carnival itself? Okay. And I heard what I believe to be between $5,000 and $7,000. So
we heard multiple numbers.
Okay, that day, yeah. So, and I know there was some discussion from a commissioner to them and what number is there, and I'm sure it fluctuates. So we're just going to say between $5,000 and $7,000 is what they might generate from the having a carnival, and then how difficult it is looking forward to being able to get a carnival there on that weekend when getting carnivals are harder, and they're going to go to whoever they make the most revenue from. Okay, so we know we're in this quagmire. So going forward, why isn't it a consideration? Just a consideration here, Chad, that the county, if they want to be influential in this and help in this, because they're pretty much the funder of it, consider saying, okay, look, we realize going in the future that this carnival thing might be on the chopping block simply because we're not going to be able to find somebody. So let's look at ways that maybe we can offset that cost to the fair committee, the fair board, and say, if there was another $7,000 in funding instead of the $25,500, we were able to give $32,000 to that, then the carnival would not be as much of a financial impact by it not being there. Now, what you do in place of it, I don't know. You know, I'm saying, like, trying to think
Lance,
outside the box. How do we fix this problem?
I'm gonna throw something else out at you here.
Yes.
There's something else. There's something else that no one wants to admit that needs to be embraced and thought about. And I'm going to get tarred and feathered for this statement.
Uh-oh. Good. Okay? Make a bolder statement than
I
me,
might
Chad.
I might even get drawn and quartered.
Oh, God. Make a bolder statement than me.
The days of the demolition derby are numbered.
Because of the bleachers and the cost of the bleachers?
No. Not just because of that. Okay? All right. Now, personally, I would make the statement that the bleacher conversation is null and void. Okay?
Okay.
Because there is no reason to invest in that. The days are numbered. And the reason they're numbered, nobody's been paying attention. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but few have been paying attention. None of those people who have been paying attention are willing to dip their toe in the pool and say what I just said. The number of competitors has been going down and down and down. Okay? And you know, you'll get a year where all of a sudden we've got a kind of a blip and a bump. But over time, it's going down. And not just here. And the reason for this is pretty simple. The economics of a demolition derby for the competitors don't work. It just doesn't. Okay? And it's getting harder and harder and harder and harder for those folks to find the vehicles they need to use to compete. That's why we see some things coming out, you know, the figure 8 races, compact car divisions.
Yeah.
You know, things that are not kind of, you wouldn't consider traditional for a demolition derby.
Yeah.
But it's getting harder and harder and harder for the competitors, which means you're getting fewer and fewer and fewer of them. And, you know, I'll be curious to see how, quite honestly, the move to the second weekend is going to affect the Derby.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these folks, because of the economics are so hard, you know, they're not driving in just one Derby. There's a whole bunch of them in county fairs all in this region, and they're trying to get to as many of them as they can. Okay? I've watched it. I've watched guys break their own stick because the engine's still running, and they can go next week.
Yeah.
All they got to do is do some work on the body, and they can go next week. But if they keep going, the engine may not be running.
Yeah.
And then they're out next week. I've watched them do it.
Knowing I can fix this, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the demolition derbies days are numbered. Yes, the bleachers are going to become an issue, and that's a major investment. I would make the statement that it's not an investment that is worth it. Because I just, the demolition derbies days, in my opinion, are absolutely numbered. What are we going to do to replace that revenue? Because
there's
I'm just,
that's a direct cost.
You know me, I'm an honest man. As much as I hate the Derby and have always hated demolition derbies,
I love them.
There is a lot of money getting made on that demolition derby.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in the stands. You know, and I can't, I'm being brutally honest. I very rarely miss the Derby because there's so many people there. I shoot photos.
Yeah.
When I miss, somebody else goes. I pay somebody to go do that.
Yeah.
But I don't enjoy any minute of being there. I really don't. And I have sat and watched this trend of how it has become more and more difficult for the competitors. And they've made rule changes to try and make it easier, but none of that addresses the availability of the vehicles. Yeah. Okay?
Which progressively costs more and more and more.
Exactly. You know, it used to be you'd spend $400 or $500 on a vehicle, yeah, and it ran, and that's really all you wanted. You just needed to run, and then you'd spend however many weeks gutting it, welding the doors shut, putting in a removable gas tank, you know, all those, you do all that work.
Yeah.
But if you're looking now, if you spend $500, it's got a blown transmission. You can't put another $1,000 into the thing.
Yeah. And then not only that, like another thing that had been mentioned before too was the fact that because these cars are becoming older and older and older as we age, that there is a more of a market for people that want to restore these classic cars. So if you have a classic or an antique, and I can go buy this one and use the front quarter panel or the rear quarter panel or whatever it is that I can pull off of this, people are going to pay some money to be able to get that vehicle if it's got any salvageable parts to then sell. I mean, there's a market for that. Buy this car, take these pieces off of it, and then sell these pieces individually to people that might need it. And there could be a situation where somebody had a classic car that got into a fender bender and they need to replace something. They're going to pay some money for the original part to go on there. So, just thinking out of the box, some vision.
If members of the Fair Association, whether they have said it openly or not, have had the same realization that I have, if they've had that realization, okay, they know in the back of their brain that the Derby is going to go away. Whether it's because the insurance company won't write for the bleachers anymore and they just can't afford to put new bleachers in, or we're just not going to be able to get anybody to compete in it anymore. Yeah. One of those two things is going to take that thing away. Yeah. They know that in the back of their brain. That makes preserving the revenue that's coming in right now from the carnival ridiculously important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and again, my family for years was a 4-H family.
Yeah.
For us, the fair is all about 4-H.
Yeah.
Always. But this association had to make business decisions. I was welcomed to my office this morning with an email from Gail Lanier, which stated that they're going to adjust the schedule again. And they're going to move all of the judging and everything onto one weekend, because one of the things that had everybody upset is that it was being split between the two weekends. Well, now everything's going to get moved. 4-H and everything it's getting open class one weekend, and it's going to be the first weekend in August, which is when people are used to going for the fair.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're part of the livestock project, you planned your whole year
around that date,
around that weekend.
Yep.
This was the weekend that your calf, cow, horse, pig, chicken, whatever it is, was going to peak. This is it.
Yeah.
And so you got that weekend back. Okay?
So they were accommodated.
Right. But what nobody can get back, because it's kind of set, is, Demo Derby's going to be second weekend, Carnival second weekend, I believe Rodeo is going to be second. I mean, all that other stuff, second weekend. So we have a split fair.
Yeah.
In essence, we have two different fairs now.
Yeah.
So, that's what's going to happen. Okay?
Yeah.
We're going to find out in August what the effect of that is. We are.
Yeah.
I can sit here and predict based on the experience that I've seen in other counties. I can do that.
Yeah.
And the fact of having, the entertainment portion of the fair, that's the best words I can come up with for it, the entertainment portion of the fair, competing with one of the oldest and largest festivals in our county, we're going to see the effect of that.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope that this situation does not disenfranchise people who have poured their heart and soul into it, regardless of what their capacity is, whether that be a board member or a volunteer or whatever. Let's hope, Chad, that there's some forward thinking, some vision that comes out of this. And like, if there is the mention that the demo derby is not going to be the demo derby, then maybe somebody will think outside the box and say, let's have a motocross. Let's do something where we're not banging cars into one another, but still requires, mud and ramping. And
they've dipped their toe in the pool of some of that already.
Yeah. Well, let's hope.
But you're talking about trying to find something that is going to be as popular as the demolition derby has been.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be an easy task.
Yeah.
It's really not.
Yeah.
Okay? All right? You know how I feel, but there's a large section of our population who absolutely loves that event.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are going to be waiting for me at my office about an hour after this post's online with their pitchforks. And you know what? I hear you. I understand. I gotcha. But this is the reality. And part of this goes to the conversation that we started with. Guys, be civil to me.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is telling you this is the inevitable.
You
this
mean
is
what
what's
you think?
happening.
You're just expressing your own mind and opinion.
I'm just expressing some truth.
Yes. And I'm somebody that loves the demo derby, and I'm sad to say that well, you might. There's some truth to what you're saying, Chad.
I know there's truth to what I'm saying.
I mean, we're in this situation where you just have to say, okay, well, if this is a possibility, whether it be 3, 4, 5 years from now or whatever the case may be, it is a possibility. So a good leader will try to innovate and have some vision and some forward thinking and say, well, what could we do different? And speaking of festivals, and not to take off of what we're doing or whatever, but if somebody's showing up with a pitchfork, Chad, you just call me and I'll come up there and tell them, stop it. Stop it now.
We'll have a pitchfork festival.
Because everybody, listens to Lance. So just stop that whatnot and that nonsense and be civil, by goodness. We're dealing with things that is high emotion and everybody equally just wishes that things weren't the way they are or we could change things. But, I'm a big person to say, hey, I have to accept the things I cannot change, right? That's just part of it.
Right.
And learn, so going forward with this, Sand Creek Summer Days.
Oh man, can't wait.
Can't wait for that. That's coming up pretty quick. It's happening on my birthday weekend, so that's going to be good, and I'm going to enjoy my birthday.
It's happening on my 35th class reunion weekend, and I'm probably going to sacrifice the class reunion in order to go to the Sand Creek Summer Days. And I love
Sand Creek Summer Days, but one thing that Sand Creek Summer Days always seems to struggle with is community support. And I don't mean that in the way of volunteers. I mean, they have some awesome things that go on there. And, well, I would think that it would have a lot more people that would show up in the community and enjoy the things that they have. The buttons are next to nothing. You can do things all weekend long. There's things for your kids. They have concerts and everything else. And it's like, they're bringing out and always do bring out, and I got to send a shout out to Sand Creek Summer Days. They bring some good bands, they bring some good entertainment, they bring some stuff. And when I'm volunteering for that and I see the crowds, it's like, where's the crowds? Where's the crowds, Chad?
So, okay. How mad do you want me to make people?
Oh, I'm not today. Don't get pitchforks going on. But it goes back to this. It's like,
no, I'm going to do it.
Okay. Make them mad, Chad.
Here's the deal. I am tired of the general attitude in this community.
Oh, there ain't nothing to do attitude?
No.
Okay.
It needs to be free attitude.
Oh. Well, that's not how you make things run.
Okay. Exactly. I've watched this go on for years. All right. And the most blatant example I can give you is Newton Rebels baseball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another awesome thing in the community.
Yes. But when people walk up to the gate, they act all insulted that they're expected to pay a couple bucks to get in.
And we're talking a couple dollars.
And the ones that make me the angriest are the ones that I know go running down to Wichita to minor league baseball and pay 5 times as much.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's okay to pay for an event going on outside of town. But anything that's in town, they kind of expect it to be free. The same thing happened with the Chisholm Trail Festival.
Yeah.
Exact same thing. They brought in paid buttons. Everybody complained. We should be able to go for free. It does not work that way.
But we're talking about next to nothing, Chad.
We are talking about next to nothing. We're talking like, what, $5? Isn't that, I mean, an advanced button is like $4 or $5.
Yeah.
And you know, so I guess where I'm at on it when it comes to attendance to the festival, where I'm at is, guys, and you know who you are. We're talking Greg, we're talking Rod, we're talking Rick. You guys, I got your back.
Yeah.
Charge that fee.
Yeah.
Put that button out there. What people get in return is a heck of a lot more than $5 worth of entertainment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You couldn't even go see some of these bands for $5. you know, and then you go to like Wichita River Fest, or you have like the county fair, or I mean the state fair. All these different entities, people are fine with going and paying twice as much, but yet, I mean, you can't. I know some of these bands that they've had come, Chad, and I'm here to tell you that try to go someplace and buy a ticket to their entertainment, and you're not gonna. It's just you get so much.
I'm
for
gonna
the
tell you
price
right
that
now
they offer a button for.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I got a $20 bill on my dresser right now, and I wrote Chip Westfall on that $20 bill because I can't wait to see Chip Westfall as Sand Creek Charlie.
Yeah, I know that's gonna be good. And last year they had a good Sand Creek Charlie.
Oh, she's awesome.
And the year before they had a
guess
good
what?
one. And
She's
the year before,
she's Woman of the Year this year.
I know.
One of 3.
I know.
I'm gonna have a story about the third. That's the last in the series. I'm gonna have a story about the third Woman of the Year on Saturday. I can't wait. It's done. I can't wait to get it all in my systems and all the photo cap done and all that stuff and get it out there, because all three of them are just stellar human beings.
Yeah. And I like what you're doing with the community conversations, Chad. I really do. I like it. Every one of them that comes up, I watch. If people don't know, Chad does community conversations through the Kansan, Chad Frey, the Kansan Guy.
Yep.
And he interviews people that are really rock star people in the community. I like it, Chad.
I started out with a standard set of questions of 5 questions, and those were, quite honestly, those were written by my corporate folks, because they had an initiative that they wanted to launch. We went through that. We're done with that. At least that portion of that initiative. What's going on with that initiative now is all behind the scenes, and I've got to go do some video training on it this afternoon, and I've got to take a test and all this fun stuff.
Very cool.
And it's
growing Chad.
It's well, and
I love it.
What they've settled on focusing on for the next like 5 weeks is marketing.
Okay.
And that means marketing the Newton Kansan. It means marketing Cherry Road Media. It means marketing Chad Frey.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Yeah.
I sent an email off yesterday that I have some ideas that aren't part of this training that I want some help with. Yeah. And when I say help, and I was very blunt, I said, when I say help, I want people.
Yeah.
Whether they be people from other properties that show up in town for a day to help me within something like, well, I'll name one thing that was on the list: the chili cook-off.
Yeah.
That
takes people.
It takes people to do those things.
Yes.
And I was very blunt in saying that here's a list, and we cannot do this with the same 2 or 3 people that we have. And we need to be seen with more than 2 or 3 people out in our community.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
And this is a corporate-wide thing that I believe this about.
Yeah.
So we'll see where those conversations lead. That's where community conversations started.
Well, don't stop.
I extended
keep
it.
Doing it, Chad.
Well, what I did was I took that model and I said, I'm going to write 5 questions and we're going to go after the Women of the Year. We're going to do a video interview with the standard set of 5 questions for the Women of the Year. Honestly, I'm looking to schedule my next set, and I have no idea who I'm going to be asking or who I should be asking. So, if you're somebody that's been working in this community for any amount of time, I would love to do something with Phil Anderson, but I don't think that'll ever happen.
Yeah.
He'd be, that dude knows more about this community than anybody, but he's also been here for longer than anybody,
life.
Right?
Yeah.
So, it'd be another opportunity for me to needle him that he's not the longest running business in town.
Yeah.
That's us. But we got him by a few years. But he's longest running on Main Street. Yeah. There's nobody even close there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that initiative. I loved it when I thought it had great possibility when they announced it and said this is what we were going to do. Somewhere along the line, we're going to be doing some community surveys and polling.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't even. And where did we start with on that?
I just was sending you shout out saying that I really appreciated watching it. I like what you're doing. Please keep doing it. Being able to tell the stories of people in the community that are doing great and amazing things, or some flag planters, if you want to call it that. You can't beat that. And, sometimes I do something similar or whatever, but it still comes back to the fact that, well, I don't like watching myself as much as I like watching you, Chad.
Yeah.
I love it.
And my production value isn't nearly as high as yours.
That's okay. It doesn't matter. It's all about our community, Chad. It's about our community. It's about being able to. I can't do everybody. I ain't got the time in the day.
Let me put this at you. The next Woman of the Year video and story is coming Saturday, and that's on Carrie Holler.
Cool.
And if you watch nothing else from that, right? If you please watch the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I asked. One of the standard questions I asked was, what would you say to members of the community to try and motivate them to serve our community? And her answer, absolutely beautiful and perfect.
Now you got me. Wanting to watch it.
Well, I'll let you watch it on my phone here.
Okay.
In just a few minutes.
I get the sneak peek, everybody.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, Chad. I don't know. We're dealing with some rain now. Those that are listening, if you're listening intently, you can hear that there's some rain going on. So we
Thank goodness gracious.
Wrap it up for today. But Chad, I just got to say, man, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what the Kansan does. I appreciate your forward thinking. You're a good man, and I can't say enough that I appreciate you coming out here on the program with me once a week and us doing this together, because I can't sit here and talk to the wall myself, and I don't think there's anybody else that I would be doing this with right now that I would rather, Chad. I'm thankful for you. I appreciate your friendship in this, and just keep being a rock star. Absolutely keep being a rock star.
Do I need to buy some shades?
No, I'm just telling you, it is what it is. I'm just telling you, I'm just very thankful for you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity that you give me every week, Lance.
Yeah.
Very, very much. More than you will ever know.
Oh, don't worry.
Because, they're launching this whole marketing thing, and I'm just like, well, Lance has been helping me with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Hey.
And that's just kind of my attitude. And it's like, if you guys want to figure this stuff out, maybe you can come talk to me. But, it's just really kind of amazing to me that it just feels like everybody's a day late and a dollar short.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, aren't we all? That's what vision and forward thinking is about. But a lot of what we do is giving to our community, Chad. You and me both. Promise you that. That I do what I do because I want to be able to love on my community. I know that you're here because you want to love on the community, and that's probably where our mutually shared friendship comes from, to be completely honest, for anybody that's wondering.
You know, here's a thing that happened to me within the last 10 days. I got ripped pretty hard on X.
Formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah. There was this conversation going on about something that occurred between a journalist from the Indianapolis Star and Caitlin Clark. And the interview was extremely awkward. Borderline harassment.
Wow.
Of a female by a male. And I opened up my mouth and said, you know, this is how I've handled situations like this in the past. This is what this editor has done. And I got ripped for that pretty hard. And one of the main rippers, somebody I've never met, keyboard warrior, was just like, this is why you're stuck in Newton, Kansas. Your attitude on this is probably why you're still stuck in Newton, Kansas.
Look, I'm not stuck here. I choose to be here.
That was my response.
I like Newton, Kansas.
My response was, I'm not stuck here. This is where I chose to come, raise a family, and I've been happy here for decades.
Lay down roots.
Yeah. So, you know, have I had the opportunities to go other places? Yeah. Have I had opportunities to go up the tree, so to speak, in the world, you know, management and become a publisher or something of that nature? Yeah. And I've turned them all down. You know, and almost all of those opportunities would have meant more money.
Yeah.
But I turned them down. I turned them down because this is where I want to be and where I am supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? And when I get to the opportunity to speak to the hollers of the world, she reinforced all that for me, which was really, really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So seriously watch that interview. I'll show you that.
I'll do it. Okay. I want to give you the last word, but before we go, I want to send a shout out. You know, with my youngest that I have, he's almost 2 years old. I was always pretty nervous about wanting to get any kind of a child care for him. Not only that, but child care is very limited. If you remember, I had some people come on the program about a child care center that they were expanding or attempting to expand in Mound Ridge, and just knowing that they're trying to fill a need. But if you didn't know, Angels Wings Learning Center, located at 215 North Meridian in Newton, 67114, is a wonderful place. My son started going there and goes there a couple times a week. So part-time, they've offer both part-time and full-time. It's at a reasonable rate. I've watched him come out of his shell, and I don't mean that he was in a shell, in as much as there's only so much development that can take place with your youngster if they're not socialized with other youth their age. So, you know, I've been very watchful. I can say that if any place here locally in Newton that I would suggest, I want to send a recommendation out. You can give Juanita Cruz, who is the center director, a call at 316-230-0232, or you can visit them at angelwingsks.com. That's ANGELWINGSKS.com. Or you can email them at awlcnewton@gmail.com. That's Juanita Cruz, who's the center director. And I just got to say it. I just have to say it again. I'm so blessed by this center and so blessed by the teachers that they have there. My son loves to go play with friends, and I have been just absolutely blessed, is the best word that I can say, by this place. So if you're considering any kind of a child care in any way, shape, or form, just know that you can go and you can look these people up, go visit the center, and talk to the people. It's worth every penny that I spend to be able to have my child there, to be nurtured and loved on, and have the developmental needs that that all children require. So, Chad, give me the last word, my man.
Last word.
You got the last word.
Last word.
That's it this week? Come on, don't do that to me. I'm looking for something profound coming
You're
from
looking
Chad.
for something profound?
Yes, I am.
Well, you're going to have to look somewhere else for something really profound other than, it's just, we're coming up on summer. Summer is usually a really fun time in this community. And I referenced one of those great activities that you guys can all get out and do. Rebels baseball is coming.
I love it.
It is coming soon. It is, and if you haven't investigated being a host family, maybe you should.
Yeah.
It's a way to serve your community without having to do a whole lot, to be honest. Yeah. Just point a baseball player to an extra bed in your house. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, the rain has stopped us, Chad.
I love the rain.
Love the rain. Enjoy the rain, everybody, and we'll catch you next week.